The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Insights. I'm Alexandra Johnson, and this morning I'm sitting down with Lieutenant Mike Hahn, and he's going to be telling us a little bit about some of the most common scams that are happening here in Alpena. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Now, I have a list here of a number of scams that are happening around the area of Alpena. What are some of the most common scams that we see here?
Well, first and foremost, especially in the springtime when taxes are due, we're seeing a lot of the IRS scam. And that one happens quite a lot. What normally happens is a person will receive a telephone call from usually a male, acting very official and stern. And that person will inform you that you are behind on your taxes and you owe the IRS money, and that there are IRS agents on their way right now to arrest you. Sometimes they even threaten to arrest your family. And that for you to avoid being arrested, you need to immediately go out and get some money and send it to them so that they can get rid of the arrest warrant.
Now, so that's just one of them. But another really popular one to mention is, you told me earlier before the show, another really popular one is saying something about electricity and heat and stuff like that being shut off. What is that one called?
Yes, it's the same line.
Concept.
It's usually it's either a utility company or a government agency, usually the IRS. With regard to the utility companies, they'll call and they'll say that you are back, or you owe money on your electric bill or your water bill, and they threaten to shut those utilities off. And then what they ask you to do is immediately go out and get what's called a prepaid debit card. Usually it's a green dot money pack card. Those can be attained at Walmart or at Walgreens or those stores. You go in there, you give them money, and then they give you a credit card for all intents and purposes, and it can be used just like a credit card. The scam people will tell you to come back to your house, call them right away at the phone number that they give you, and read off the numbers on that prepaid money card. Once you've done that, they transfer that money to their card, and it's untraceable, and you've lost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars right there. It's important to know that the IRS, other government agencies, the police, utility companies would never ever collect back taxes or electric or water bills in that manner. It's always a scam.
Now, with any scam, I'm sure there's red flags that pop up. What are some of the red flags that people should look for to know, this probably isn't legit?
Well, your best line of defense is always going to be, is this too good to be true? Often these scam artists will call up and they're offering you thousands and thousands of dollars, but all you need to do is remit just a little bit of money to them first, and then you'll get your prize. That's pretty common with the one that we see with the sweepstakes or the lottery winner. People receive a telephone call saying you've won the lottery or you've won the sweepstakes. That's great, and they're all excited, and they get you pretty jazzed as well. And then they tell you that all you need to do is pay the applicable federal and state taxes and some processing fees, which usually run up into the high hundreds or thousands of dollars, and then they'll send you your prize. And often people fall for that. And guess what? Those fees that you have to remit through a green dot money pack card, rarely, but sometimes you'll send in a money order or a cashier's check, but it's usually that green dot money card.
Okay, so if someone ever hears anything about a green dot money card through a scam, it's typically they should know that that's a red flag.
It's a huge red flag. Those green dot money pack cards, prepaid debit cards, they have their purposes. They are legitimate, but when people are calling over the phone and telling you need to pay some taxes to get your prize money, or you are behind in your IRS, taxes and that type of thing, and they want you to remit money through those cards, it is always a scam.
Okay.
Should never do that.
Now, whether this is a lottery scam or an IRS scam, who are the people that are doing this?
Well, I have to tell you, most of the people are calling from overseas. There are a lot of countries that are more prevalent than the others. We won't name them today, but that's where most of the money is going. Annually, the United States is losing $4 billion. $4 billion a year.
That's so much.
And most of it's going overseas to these scams. How much is leaving Michigan's economy? It's in the millions. It could be even in the billions. I don't know. But I do know that a lot of this is affecting the citizens in northeastern Michigan. Every day we get scores of telephone calls from people saying that the IRS is threatening to arrest them, or that their utilities are going to be shut off, or they suspect that they sent thousands of dollars and they've been ripped off. And we invite them in, they come in, they tell their story, and we have to tell them, yeah, you have been, you've lost that money and it can't be gotten back for you. We'll take the police report for them, but there's really not much we can do.
Now, is this happening to everyone, or is there a specific group that these people target?
This does go across all the demographics. Nobody's immune to this, but I can tell you that these scam artists are targeting certain populations. Their prized target are senior citizens, and there's a reason for that. Senior citizens are from a more trusting generation. They're often isolated, either widowed or they're just living alone. Their kids have moved off. They've also established excellent credit. They also own their own homes. And so they're the ones that are probably the best targets. And they don't have their kids or their family members to warn them about these things. They lack excitement in their lives in many cases. And hey, here's a way to get rich and do nice things for my grandkids and my children, which is what we hear a lot. I wanted to win this prize so badly,
And I'm assuming as well, there has to be a little bit of research, I would think, to go into this so they know how to tailor each scam to a household. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. In fact, that leads us right into what's called the Grandchild in Trouble scam. The Grandchild in Trouble scam has been happening here in northeastern Michigan. That's where the caller, the scam artist, will call usually an elderly victim, and they'll, in a high-pitched voice, they may even have children doing this, they will attempt to make you believe that it's your grandchild, your granddaughter, your grandson. Usually they say they've been arrested and they're in jail and they need you to send them bond money right now so they can get out. They sound very distressed, often crying, which sets you off guard because it's startling. So usually when that happens, people don't start thinking, hey, this doesn't even sound like my grandchild. They leap into action, they want to do that, and guess where the bond money has to come from and how it's going to be sent. Right. Through the green dot money pack card, those prepaid credit cards. Big red flag. The other thing that they'll do is they'll portray your granddaughter or grandson, and that person says that they've been in a bad car crash, and they're in the hospital. And sometimes the hospital may be Mexico or Florida or something. This often happens around spring break time when these kids are downstate and whatnot. And they'll need money for medical bills, and again, they want you to send that money through the green dot money card. Now, you asked about preparation and doing some research for this. This is where that comes in. These scam artists have nothing better to do but sit and surf the web, and they look at social media. They'll find somebody's Facebook page, for instance. They'll skim through it until they find their grandmother, picture of her, maybe her name, and they look at that, and then they can get on their smartphone and then they call up the white pages. I have an example right here. This is just a name I popped in here. I put the name Joe Thomas in there. And just from this, I can see I got a phone number, I have an address, and I have names of everybody in that individual's household. I can also see that this Joe Thomas is about 70 years old. That's grandparent age, right?
Yeah, so that's a sign like, okay, this guy, he's a little bit older, I can see everyone in his household, so just that quickly he can do that amount of research.
And more than likely have the names of his grandchildren. And so they call up, and they're very good at this because this is all they do.
It's their job, yeah.
They practice all the time. And they don't have to get it right. And if they don't get it right, they just hang up and try it again with somebody else. And so they call up and, Grandpa, this is John. I'm in trouble with the police. You need to get me out of jail. And thousands of dollars are scooped up by these criminals through that scam alone.
All right. Well, Officer Hahn, we're going to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about some do's and don'ts when it comes to scams. Welcome back to Insights, everyone. I'm still sitting here with Lieutenant Hahn. And Lieutenant Hahn, there's a number of scams. We've already talked about a few of them, but let's get into, I know, the medical alert. That's a pretty big one here in Alpena. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
It is. Once again, this one focuses in on our senior citizens. Medical alert is when a caller will call up a senior citizen and announce to them that, hey, your family has purchased this nice medical alert system for you. Very thoughtful, right? And of course that elicits nice feelings with the victim here. And so they're like, wow, that's great. So then the caller, the scam artist, says, all we need to do is get a little bit of information about you so that we can set this device for your personal needs. And that's where the trap begins. They start asking questions, starting off with your name and other innocuous questions, but then they start asking the questions that they really want, and such as your social security number, your driver's license number, your date of birth, all kinds of other personal information. And those key questions are sandwiched in amongst the low-key innocuous ones. So by the time you're done talking to them about the medical alert that you're never going to get, it's too late. You've already given them enough information that they can establish credit card accounts and other type of credit in your name.
So what are some, if this happens to you, someone calls about a medical alert scam and you're a little bit suspicious, what are some questions you should ask them to know if they're real?
I think the first thing that I would do is I would ask, well, who ordered it for me? Do you have a name? And then I would say, well, can you call me back in about 10, 15 minutes? I'm going to verify all of this. And then just hang up and then call whoever it is that they said. Often they're probably not going to have a name at all. If you begin to question them, they'll usually hang up because they have scores of people out there that they can try this with. They don't have to get it right the first time. They can try and try and try again.
Right, because they have a number of people they can go to.
Millions.
Right. And I know the Robo call scam. That's another popular one, right?
This one hits our area a lot and increasingly lately. This one happens usually over the telephone. It has happened. People receive text messages. What they'll get is usually a caller will call and they'll say, Mr. Hahn, your credit card has been compromised. We can help you with that. I'm from Card Member Services. That's a big key. They always say they're from Card Member Services, which is usually the fraud department for most major credit cards. And they'll ask you to verify your credit card number with them, which implies that they already have it, which they don't. That's where you are asked to give your credit card number to them over the phone. And then once they have that, they've got enough. They could hang up right now and they've scored, but then they'll take it a step further. Then they'll ask you to verify your identity. So they'll take your name, your date of birth, your driver's license number, your social security number, and all kinds of other things that they would need, not only to use the credit card that you've just given them, but to establish new credit cards in your name. So that's a real bad one. Never, ever give that information out over the phone. If your card has ever been compromised, it's not going to be taken care of in that manner. Your credit card is going to be canceled by your bank.
Okay, so if you get a robo call, and again, what would be some questions to ask, or how would you specifically know that it's a scam?
I would hang up immediately. It's always going to be a scam in that regard. Hang up immediately, get your credit card out, and call the number on the back. There's usually a 1-800 or 1-877 number on the back of your credit card, and you can call and you can verify whether or not it's been compromised yourself. Usually people aren't going to call and tell you that. And as I said earlier, sometimes this comes in the form of a text message. In fact, I myself have gotten one. I looked and it said your credit card has been compromised. Please send your credit card number to us so we can verify it. They wanted me to type it into my phone and send it.
And that's a huge red flag.
Oh, I'd have been done right there.
Yeah.
They'd have had my credit card number.
And then they would have started spending all your money.
Immediately.
So in that case, it's always good to call your bank and just say, is this legit? Do you really need my number? That sort of thing.
That's right.
Okay. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about accidental overpayment.
The accidental overpay, this is one of their more creative ones. This is kind of new. Oftentimes nowadays people are selling things on websites such as Craigslist or eBay and that type of thing. And those are certainly useful sites. However, the scam artists have gotten into this now. And what they'll do is, let's say for instance you are selling something on Craigslist. All right, I'm the scam artist. I'm going to respond to your ad. I'm going to offer you an amount for that, and you let's say you accept it, okay? I'm going to send you a check for hundreds of dollars more than what we agreed upon. You'll get the check, and it's a bogus check. You don't know that because they look very official. You see that I've written it for $9,000 over, and you call me up and you say, hey, there's been a mistake here. And I go, oh, did I do that? I'm sorry. I made a mistake, but it's an honest mistake. Why don't you go ahead and cash it and just send back the excess to me in the form of a green dot money card, right? They'll have you do that, or they'll ask you to send a cashier's or money order to them. But here's the key. They'll always ask you to do that right away. They're very adamant about that. And the reason for that is they know their check is bogus. They know the bank is going to detect that, and it's going to happen in 1 or 2 days. So that's why they usually want you to send the overpayment back to them in the form of that green dot money pack card. And if you do that, once the check is discovered as bogus, the bank is going to hold you accountable, and they're going to expect you to pay them back all of the money.
Okay, so if I were to receive a check for $9,000 and I cashed it, I could potentially get in trouble for cashing that check even?
Well, the bank's going to hold you accountable. Most people cash these checks at their bank, but yeah, you're going to be the one holding the bag. You're the one that cashed the bogus check. And they're not going to go after the people that are overseas. I mean, they're a needle in a haystack.
They may never be found.
They
right?
will never be found.
Okay.
That's why this is so lucrative.
Mm-hmm. And real quick, I'm talking about Craigslist. I know this doesn't really have much to do with scams, but MSP is doing something to help prevent violence with trades on Craigslist and that sort of thing, correct?
Yes, we are. And it's not just this post. A lot of the posts throughout the state of Michigan are doing this. Unfortunately, people who are meeting other unscrupulous criminal types to conduct Craigslist or finalize those transactions are meeting up with people who have violent criminal intentions towards them. There has been some sexual assaults, there have been robberies. And so we, as the Michigan State Police, we want to provide a safe place for those transactions to be finalized. And in our case, it's our front parking lot. We recommend that people come during our administrative hours, and they are free to do that there. It also may keep people from getting taken in some type of scam as well. But mostly that's just to avoid people from being the victims of violence.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's definitely a good thing. And real quick before we go, do you have any do's or don'ts you'd like to mention when it comes to scams?
Yes. Always keep in mind that you never ever should be sending out money to get money. It's just not going to happen. That is completely unrealistic. That is a big red flag. Keep in mind, don't send money over the phone using prepaid green dot cards. That is the biggest red flag in these things of all. It just doesn't happen. IRS is never going to collect money like that. Neither are utility companies. And the IRS is never going to come and arrest you at your home like that either. It's completely bogus. Never give personal information out over the telephone to anybody. Don't give your credit card numbers, don't give your social security number, driver's license, date of birth, nothing like that. It just shouldn't be happening like that. Always be suspicious of strangers, whether it's on the telephone or in person. This isn't the good old days. There's criminals out there and they want your money.
Okay, so if you're ever suspicious, hang up, call the bank, call family members, and try and verify what's going on before you ever send money then.
Absolutely. Don't be bullied by these people. Oftentimes, they'll become kind of nasty on the phone and they'll try and bully you. Don't feel bad about hanging up on them. It's not rude to hang up on these guys.
No,
they're criminals.
no, it's not.
Right.
All right.
And last but not least, if it seems too good to be true, if you're going to be making a lot of money for not much, it is too good to be true. It's a scam.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Hahn, for telling us quite a bit about what we need to know about scams. There's a lot out there, and I know we only covered a few, but I hope it's helpful to people.
I hope so too. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And when we come back, we're going to be talking with a computer tech guy who's going to tell us a little bit about how scammers break into computer systems. Welcome back to Insights, everyone. I'm here with Jason Lepper, who is a webmaster and email specialist. And Jason, in this show, we've been talking a lot about scams going on in the Alpena community. And so with you, I kind of want to focus on computer scams.
Sure.
So can you tell me what are some of the most common computer scams that people see?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. We actually just helped a client with this. They received an email alleging to be from an institution that they work with, that they had requested some sensitive information, passwords, account numbers, things along that line. And they sent it to us saying, I don't understand, they should have all this information on file, and asked us to take a look at it. Well, this was what's known as a phishing scam. Basically, someone tries to impersonate your bank, anywhere that you have sensitive information, credit card numbers, things along those lines, and try and get access to that by basically pretending to be them. And you basically give them their information, which obviously you don't want to do if you can avoid it. So they asked us to double check on it. We gave them our opinion. They said, thank you very much. Actually let the institution know, and I believe they've been working to try and make sure that no more emails of that such go out since then.
So would you say phishing is maybe one of the most common ways people get tricked into giving out their information?
Phishing is one of the most common ways. The other way you can have that occur is if you have a bad program installed on your computer. If you get a link to a program in an email from a source that you don't know, or that the URL doesn't look quite right, that can be oftentimes another way that hackers can infect your computer and do one of a few different things. They can either lock out information from you on your own computer, or they can then take the information that's stored on your computer to use for themselves at a later date.
Now, are hacking and I guess phishing, would those be considered the same things as, so I guess what I'm asking is, someone sending you a virus for your computer, is that the same as hacking?
In common terms, yes, they are pretty close to the same thing. Hacking is kind of a generic term for a wide variety of different ways that people gain access to your information when you did not intend for them to have it. And that can be done, like I said, through an installed program, through you providing it to them, not realizing that they aren't who they claim to be, but there are other avenues as well.
Okay, so who are these people, and why are they doing this, that are sending out, you know, bad viruses to infect people's computers, or are trying to fish for information?
Well, you have some people who do it just because they're bored and all they want to do is cause problems for people. Those are usually referred to as trolls. Internet trolls is a common phrase you may hear nowadays. There's a wide variety of motivations for people to try and infect your computer, but the most common one would be for their own financial gain. So they gain access to your credit card, your bank accounts, and go on a spending spree with your money. And we try and help our clients avoid being the victims of situations just like that.
Now, is it pretty easy for people to create viruses and find out other people's information in order to do this?
It can be easy if they utilize some of the different phishing mechanisms. Basically, they play on your belief that that the hacker is someone who is an authority who needs information, for example, to your bank account, so that they can make sure that someone else hasn't broken in and stolen your identity, stolen your information from your financial institution. There are a lot of pre-built programs out there that you can use. Most of those can be defeated with a very good antivirus program. Some of the more complex ones, however, usually require a high degree of computer knowledge and programming ability in order to pull off successfully.
Okay. Now, what advice would you give people to protect themselves from being hacked?
Okay. First thing I would recommend is you use a strong password. Usually the longer the password is, the better. Utilizing things like upper and lowercase characters, special characters, things like $signs, hashtags, exclamation points, and numbers, all mixed in within your password. Usually we recommend no fewer than 8 characters in a password, and obviously, as I said, the longer the better, because it's more complex, more difficult in order for someone else to figure out. Having said all that, trying to remember passwords for a variety of different places can be difficult.
It can.
So one of the things I would also recommend is you use a password manager program, where you have a single, very strong password that you set up, and the program itself can help monitor the passwords on a variety of different places. For example, your credit card, any of your banking information, social media places like Facebook, Twitter, anything along those lines where you have information that you don't want other people to have access to. It can help make sure that your passwords there are always strong, and there are actually even programs out there that can alert you if a certain service has been compromised and will recommend that you change your password.
So these kind of password protector programs, If those are on the computer, could those be hacked into though, and people could access all of your information?
In theory, yes, but you would have to know exactly where to look within that program, and those programs themselves actually have secure locations within the computer that they basically work as a redundancy. In order to get access to those passwords, you'd have to have someone hack your computer and hack the program at the same time, which is so complex that most programs can't handle that.
Okay, so they're very, very safe programs then to use.
Correct.
Okay, now are passwords pretty much the main focus of what people should do when they're trying to protect themselves, or are there other things that they can do?
Well, there are other things as well. Obviously, strong passwords is a good place to start. The other thing I would recommend is you use a strong antivirus program, because they can usually alert you if there is a suspicious file that is downloaded on your computer. For example, one of the ones that I use will actually quarantine a program and will not allow me to run it, specifically saying that this program has potential malware, lets you know what the problem is, and allows you to proceed if you wish to take that risk on your own. The final thing you can do is anytime you receive information and it appears to come from a respected place but you aren't sure, you can always call the institution back at their listed phone number and say, I got an email from you regarding this particular aspect of my account. I just wanted to call and confirm that you were the ones who sent the email, and if so, what can we do to address the topic?
All right, well, thank you so much, Jason, for being a guest on our show today.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, anytime, and thank you all so much for tuning in today. Join us next week.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.